The drums stopped suddenly. In the village of Cambale, silence was never a good sign. Firelight shook on the mud walls as the wind moved through tall grass. The moon hung low and red, like it was watching. Dogs hid. Even the crickets grew quiet. That night, Zee stood in the center of the village circle. She was only 14. Her feet were bare on the cold earth. Her wrapper was torn from running. Her eyes were wide, full of fear and confusion. Around her stood elders with carved staffs, hunters holding spears, women whispering behind their hands. And standing closest to the chief fire was her own family. Her mother would not look at her. Her father's face was hard like old stone. Her older brother, Kato, stood with his arms crossed. His eyes were dry. Too dry. "The ancestors have spoken," the oldest elder said. His voice was slow and heavy. "A curse entered this family." Zee's heart jumped. A curse. She looked around, searching for a face that still loved her. She found none. Kato stepped forward. Firelight danced on his face as he spoke. "She is the one," he said. "Zee brought it. I saw her near the forbidden river. I saw her speak to shadows." Gasps moved through the circle like wind. Zee shook her head fast. "No," she cried. "I went to fetch water. That is all. I swear by the ancestors." But lies, once spoken loudly, walk faster than truth. The chief raised his hand. "Since the night she returned from the river," he said, "misfortune has followed this house. Crops died. Goats fell sick. A child burned with fever." Zee's mother finally spoke, her voice breaking. "Why would you shame us, child?" Zee fell to her knees. Dust rose around her. "I did nothing," she said. "I am your daughter." But fear is stronger than love when people believe spirits are angry. The wind howled through the trees. Somewhere in the dark forest, an owl cried. The elder lifted his staff and struck the ground once. "By dawn," he said, "the girl must leave Cambale. If she stays, the curse will grow." Zee's ears rang. Leave. At 14. Her father turned away. Her mother covered her face. Kato said nothing more. That was how it happened. No goodbye. No embrace. No food given for the road. Only a small calabash of water thrown at her feet. Zeri was pushed toward the forest path while the fire behind her burned bright and warm, without her. She walked. Each step took her farther from the only life she had known. The drums began again, slow and deep, but now they were not for her. Tears ran down her face, but she did not scream. The forest swallowed her small body. Trees rose like silent judges. Roots reached like hands. The smell of damp earth and old leaves filled her nose. Night insects sang sharp songs. Zuri hugged herself as the cold came. She whispered, "Ancestors, if you see me, help me." The path ended at the river Nyama, the same river her brother had used to destroy her life. Mist floated above the dark water. The river moved slowly, like it was breathing. Zee stopped. Fear wrapped around her chest. Stories were told about this river. Spirits lived there. Some helped. Some punished. She sat on a stone and cried until her chest hurt. That was when she heard the humming. Low. Soft. Ancient. The sound did not come from the forest. It came from the river. Zee looked up. The mist began to turn, folding into shapes. The moonlight bent. The water glowed faint blue. A woman rose from the river. She was tall and dark, her skin shining like wet stone. Her hair flowed like water plants. Her eyes were deep and endless. Zee could not move. "You have been sent away," the woman said. Her voice sounded like many voices together. Zuri nodded, trembling. "Because of lies," the spirit said. Zee's breath caught. "You know." The spirit stepped closer. The river did not touch her feet. "The ancestors know all paths," she said. "And all wrong turns." Zee bowed her head. "I am afraid." The spirit reached out and touched Zee's forehead. The touch was cold and warm at the same time. "You are not cursed," the spirit said. "You are chosen." The wind stopped. The forest leaned in. "But your road will be long," the spirit continued. Pain will shape you. Silence will protect you. Strength will feed you. Z swallowed. Will I ever return home? The spirit's eyes darkened. One day, she said. They will call your name. Not with anger. With hunger. The river spirit slowly faded back into mist. The humming stopped. Zee sat alone again. But something inside her had changed. She stood up. She wiped her face. She walked away from the river, deeper into the unknown, carrying only her fear, her truth, and the quiet fire now burning in her chest. Behind her, far away, Campbell slept. They believed they had cast out a curse. They did not know they had released a storm. And the ancestors were watching. Morning came slowly to the forest. Thin light slipped between tall trees. Birds called to one another. Dew rested on leaves like small tears. Zuri woke on the cold ground, her body stiff, her eyes swollen from crying. She was still alive. That surprised her. Hunger came first. Then fear. Then the deep silence of knowing no one was coming for her. Zuri stood and listened. The forest was not quiet. It breathed. It whispered. It watched. She followed the sound of water until she found a narrow stream. She drank with shaking hands and washed her face. Her reflection in the water looked smaller than before. Weaker. But her eyes had changed. They were no longer the eyes of a child waiting to be protected. They were the eyes of someone who must survive. Days passed. Zuri learned quickly or she would die. She ate wild berries the monkeys ate. She watched birds and learned which insects they avoided. She slept in trees when hyenas laughed below. She walked during daylight and hid when night spirits stirred. Sometimes she heard voices. Not human ones. The forest tested her. Thorns cut her feet. Rain soaked her thin wrapper. Fever burned her body one night, and she shook so badly she thought death had come. She whispered to the ancestors again and again, "Do not forget me." One evening, when the sun bled red behind the trees, Ziri collapsed near a fallen baobab. She could not stand anymore. That was when she heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Careful. A spear tip appeared first. Then a man. He was old, with skin like cracked earth and eyes sharp as an eagle's. Animal skins hung from his shoulders. Charms clicked softly around his neck. A hunter. Ziri tried to crawl away. "Do not fear," the man said. His voice was calm. "If I wanted you dead, you would already be a spirit." She stopped. The hunter studied her. "A child alone in this forest," he said. "That means pain follows you." Ziri nodded. He gave her dried meat and water. She cried as she ate. The hunter's name was Mosi. He lived at the edge of the forest, between the wild and the world of men. He did not ask many questions. He watched. Mosi taught Ziri how to set traps, how to listen to the ground, how to read the wind. He taught her the names of trees that heal and plants that kill. "You must respect the forest," he said. "It can feed you or swallow you." Z stayed. Years passed like slow-moving clouds. Her body grew strong. Her hands became steady. Her feet learned every path. She hunted small animals. She climbed rocks. She carried fire like an old friend. But the past did not leave her. At night, she dreamed of Campbell. She dreamed of her mother's face turned away. She dreamed of Kato's voice accusing her. Sometimes she woke screaming. Mosi watched her carefully. "You carry heavy spirits," he said one night by the fire. Z stared into the flames. "My blood turned against me." Mosi nodded. Blood can lie. When Z turned 18, strange things began to happen. Animals stopped running from her. A wounded antelope once walked toward her and lay down at her feet before dying. Birds circled above her head when she walked. And the dreams changed. Now, ancestors visited her sleep. Old women with white eyes. Warriors with broken shields. Voices that spoke in riddles. "You walk between paths," they told her. She woke with knowledge she had never learned. One day, while gathering roots near the riverlands, Ziri heard drums. Not forest drums. Village drums. They came from far away, carried by the wind. Her heart beat fast. She climbed a hill and saw smoke rising beyond the trees. A village. Not Cambale. She stayed hidden and watched. That night, she saw something that made her blood turn cold. Men dragged a crying woman toward the river. Elders shouted. Torches burned. Witch! Someone screamed. Zoe froze. It was her story again. She followed quietly. At the riverbank, the woman begged. I'm innocent. The crowd did not listen. Fear had already chosen its victim. Before they could throw the woman into the water, Zoe stepped forward. Stop. Her voice cut through the night like a blade. Everyone turned. They saw a young woman with wild hair, strong arms, and eyes that did not shake. Who are you? An elder demanded. Someone who was once you, Zoe said. Someone you are about to destroy. Murmurs rose. Zoe lifted her hands. The wind shifted. The river rippled. Ask the river, she said. It knows truth. The water began to glow faint blue. People screamed and fell back. The elder dropped his staff. The spirits, he whispered. Zoe walked away before they could speak again. She did not stay to be praised or feared. But the forest watched. And so did the ancestors. That night, Mosi looked at her differently. You cannot hide forever, he said. Your path is larger than this forest. Z felt it too. Far away, in Cambale, sickness had entered homes. Crops failed. The chief grew old and weak. And Cato's lies, buried for years, began to rot. The wind changed direction. The drums of fate began to rise. Zoe stood at the edge of the forest, looking toward the world that had rejected her. Her journey was no longer only about survival. It was about truth. And truth was coming. The dream came with fire. Zoe stood in a wide, empty plain. The ground was cracked and dry. The sky was heavy with dark clouds, but no rain fell. Drums beat slowly in the distance, deep and painful, like a wounded heart. Then the ground opened. From the earth rose the ancestors. They came as shadows first, then as full forms, old men with long beards, women wrapped in faded cloth, warriors with scarred chests, queens with crowns of bone and gold. Their eyes shone like stars trapped in smoke. Z fell to her knees. You have walked far, they said, their voices blending into one. I walked because I was pushed, Zoe replied. The ancestors stepped closer. You were not pushed away, they said. You were pushed forward. The plain changed. Zoe saw Cambale as it once was, green fields, laughing children, full granaries. Then the image darkened. Crops withered. Fires burned low. People argued. Fear moved like sickness. Then she saw Cato. Her brother stood alone near the forbidden river, his face tight with envy. In his hand was a small carved charm, dark and sharp. He whispered to it, his voice shaking. Z gasped. Cato, she said. The ancestors spoke. He sought favor. He wanted power. He wanted to be seen. The vision shifted. Zoe watched as Cato placed the charm by the river and cut his palm. Blood dripped into the water. Shadows gathered. The river spirit rose, silent and watching. I offer her, Cato said in the vision. Take her name. Let her fall so I may rise. Z screamed. No. But the vision continued. The ancestors' voices were heavy. The river did not accept his offering. Instead, it marked the truth. The scene changed again. Zoe saw herself that same night, young, innocent, kneeling by the river to fetch water. The spirit touched her forehead. She was chosen, the ancestors said. Not cursed. Zoe shook with anger and pain. Tears ran down her face. He destroyed my life, she whispered. He destroyed his own soul first, the ancestors replied. The plain faded. Zoe woke with a sharp breath. Firelight flickered in Moses' hut. Morning birds sang. But her chest felt heavy, like a stone sat on her heart. She knew the truth now. Cato's lie was not fear alone. It was hunger for power. Z sat outside as the sun rose. Red light washed over the forest. She clenched her fists. Mosi watched her quietly. The ancestors spoke, he said, not asking. Zeri nodded. They showed me everything. Mosi sighed deeply. Then the burden is yours. Z stood. I must return. Mosi's eyes narrowed. To Cambail. Yes. He shook his head. That village broke you. They broke a child, Zeri said. They will face a woman. Mosi walked to a small clay pot buried near his hut. He uncovered it and lifted out a bundle wrapped in animal skin. These are not weapons, he said. They are reminders. Inside were old charms, beads, carved bones, and a staff marked with ancient symbols. The ancestors guided me to keep these, Mosi said. They were waiting for you. Z touched the staff. Warmth ran through her arms. As she prepared to leave, the forest seemed to sigh. Birds cried loudly. Leaves rustled without wind. The forest knew she was going. Her journey took her across savanna where tall grass sang against her legs, through riverlands where frogs called at night, and over low mountains where cold wind cut her skin. Everywhere she went, people noticed her. Some bowed. Some feared her. Some whispered, "Spirit walker." She did not stay long in any place. The ancestors walked with her. One evening, she reached a trading village near the old roads. There, she heard news. Cambail is dying, a trader said. Their wells are dry. Children fall sick. The chief dreams of fire. Z's heart tightened. She also heard something else. Cato, another voice said. He calls himself a spiritual leader now. He says only he can save the village. Z closed her eyes. The lie had grown. That night, the river spirit came again. This time, it rose from a small stream near the camp. You are close, the spirit said. Z bowed. I know the truth now. Yes, the spirit replied. But truth alone does not heal. Z looked up. What must I do? You must let them see, the spirit said. Not just hear. The water darkened. Blood called you away, the spirit continued. Blood will call you back. Z's breath caught. My family. Your brother, the spirit said. His debt is heavy. The spirit faded. Zeri sat alone until dawn. When the sun rose, she turned toward Cambail. The path felt different now. Not like exile. Like destiny. Far ahead, unseen by her, Cato stood before the villagers, raising his hands and shouting prayers he did not believe. And beneath his feet, the earth cracked. The ancestors were moving. And the truth was coming home. Cambail appeared at sunset. The village sat quiet under a tired sky. Smoke rose weakly from cooking fires. The drums that once called joy now sounded slow and broken, like a sick heart. Fields lay dry. Goats were thin. Children's laughter was rare. Z stood on the hill above it all. She had not seen this place in many years, yet every path still knew her feet. The wind touched her face, carrying old smells, wood smoke, dust, palm oil, sorrow. Her chest tightened. This is where they left me, she whispered. She wrapped her cloak tighter and walked down. At the edge of the village, people noticed her. Whispers spread. Who is that? She walks like a spirit. Look at her eyes. Z did not stop. She walked straight toward the chief's compound, where a crowd had gathered. Torches burned. Drums beat faster now, nervous and sharp. At the center stood Cato. He wore white cloth and heavy beads. Ash marked his forehead. His voice was loud and confident. The ancestors are angry, he shouted. Only through me can they be calmed. The people listened. Fear makes liars sound wise. Zay stepped forward. The firelight caught her face. A woman screamed. It's her. The cursed girl. Murmurs turned to shouts. Cato froze. For a moment, his mask slipped. His eyes widened. His mouth went dry. Zoe, he whispered. She stopped a few steps away from him. I died the night you killed my name, she said calmly. But I did not stay dead. The crowd shook. Cato forced a smile. Spirits can take many forms, he said loudly. Do not be fooled. Z lifted her staff. The wind rose suddenly. Fire bent sideways. Dust spun in small circles. The elders stared. You sent me away because of lies, Zuri said. Tonight, the ancestors return the truth. Cato stepped back. Do not listen to her. She brings destruction. A child began to cough hard. An old woman fell to her knees, weak. Zuri knelt beside the child and touched his chest. She whispered. The coughing stopped. Silence crashed over the village. The chief, now old and shaking, stepped forward. If you are truly Zuri, he said, tell us what only the blood of this house knows. Zuri looked at him. When I was born, she said, the river flooded that same night. My mother screamed in pain, and the drums cracked. My father buried a goat horn under the doorway to protect me. Gasps rose. The chief's staff fell from his hand. Cato's face drained of color. Zuri turned to him. Do you want me to speak of the river too? Cato shouted, enough. He lifted his hands and began chanting fast. The beads around his neck rattled. Smoke thickened. People cried out. But the air grew heavy. Nothing answered him. Zuri stepped closer. You made a deal, she said softly. But spirits do not serve cowards. She struck her staff on the ground. Once. The earth trembled. The river's sound rose, though it was far away. Mist crept between huts. The river spirit appeared behind Zuri, tall and silent. People screamed and fell flat. Cato turned and saw it. He screamed too. I did what I had to, he cried. I was always in her shadow. Zuri's voice did not shake. You fed my name to darkness. The spirit raised a hand. The mist cleared. The crowd saw the vision. They saw Cato at the river. The charm. The blood. The whispering shadows. They saw Zuri, young and innocent, fetching water. They saw the lie born. Cries filled the air. The chief wept. Zuri's mother pushed forward, her face broken. My child, she sobbed. Zuri did not move. Cato fell to his knees. Forgive me, he begged. I will give anything. The spirit spoke at last. Truth has a price. The ground beneath Cato cracked. Fear swallowed his voice. Zuri closed her eyes. This was the moment the ancestors warned her about. She could let vengeance take him. Or she could choose another path. She stepped forward. Stop, she said. The spirit paused. Zuri faced the village. Punish the lie, she said. Not the blood. The spirit's eyes glowed. Cato collapsed, screaming as the beads burned his skin. The charm shattered. His voice broke into silence. He did not die. But the power left him. He lay weak, empty, exposed. The mist faded. The night exhaled. Zuri turned to the people. I was thrown away, she said. But I returned with truth, not hunger for revenge. She looked at her parents. Her father bowed his head. Her mother reached out, shaking. Zuri stepped back. I will not live among you, she said. But I will not curse you either. The drums slowed. The chief knelt. What do you ask? Zuri looked toward the forest. Remember, she said. And teach your children better than you taught yourselves. She turned and walked away. Behind her, Campbell cried, not from fear, but from shame. And deep in the earth, the ancestors listened. The greatest battle had not been fought with blood. But the final test had not yet come. Zuri had only taken a few steps away from Campbell when the night screamed. The wind roared like a wounded animal. Fires went out at once. Drums fell silent mid-beat. The ground shook harder than before, knocking people flat. Zuri stopped. Her heart tightened. This is not finished, she whispered. The river spirit rose again, but this time it was not calm. The mist turned dark. The air tasted like metal. Lightning flashed across the sky, though no rain fell. The ancestors were angry. Not at Zuri. At Campbell. The spirit's voice thundered. Truth was buried too long. Blood cried for justice. The earth split near the village square. A deep crack opened, glowing faint red, like the land itself was bleeding. People screamed and ran. The ancestors punish us, an elder cried. Zee turned back. She saw her mother fall near the crack, unable to stand. Children cried, trapped by fear. The chief lay shaking, his strength gone. And Kato lay near the fire pit, coughing, weak, stripped of false power. His eyes met Zuri's. For the first time, they held no pride. Only terror. Zai, he whispered, crawling toward her. Help me. Her chest burned. This was the climax the ancestors had spoken of. The final test. The river spirit turned to Ziri. The lie broke balance. Balance must be paid. Z swallowed. What price? The spirit's eyes shone brighter. A life of blood, or a life of service. The ground shook again. If Kato died, the ancestors would be satisfied. If Ziri refused, the village could fall. Ziri looked at Kambale. This village had fed her once. Then it had thrown her to darkness. Yet children still lived here. Innocent ones. People who had followed fear, not evil. Zai stepped forward. I will pay, she said. The crowd gasped. The spirit's voice lowered. You were already wronged. Ziri lifted her chin. And I was spared. Let that mean something. Silence spread. The ancestors' shadows appeared in the air, watching, waiting. Ziri knelt between the crack and the village. I will bind myself to the land, she said. I will carry its healing. I will walk between worlds so this place may live. The wind paused. The crack stopped widening. Kato cried openly now. No, it should be me. Ziri looked at him. You will live, she said. And you will remember every breath. The river spirit studied her. Do you understand? It asked. You will never fully belong to one place. You will walk alone. Always called, never settled. Zeri closed her eyes. She thought of the forest. Of Mosi. Of nights under stars with no walls. I already walk that path, she said. The spirit raised both hands. Water rushed from the ground, filling the crack, cooling the red glow. The earth sealed itself with a deep, final sigh. Rain finally fell. Heavy. Cleansing. People cried and laughed at once, lifting their faces to the sky. Crops drank the water. Fires hissed back to life. The ancestors faded, satisfied. The river spirit turned to Z one last time. It touched her forehead, leaving a faint mark like flowing water. You are now Aluwace, the one who returns balance, it said. Then it vanished. The storm softened. Morning came. Kambale looked reborn, washed clean. Zuri stood quietly as people gathered. No one shouted now. No one accused. They bowed. The chief struggled to his feet. We wronged you beyond repair, he said. Stay. Lead us. Z shook her head. I'm not your chief. Her mother stepped forward, tears falling freely. My daughter, my heart never stopped calling you. Z's throat tightened. She touched her mother's hand gently. Love that fears lies is not love that protects. Her father knelt. Forgive me. Zeri breathed deeply. I release my anger, she said. But scars still speak. She turned to Kato. He sat alone, thin, stripped of beads and lies. I will carry your shame, he said. Every day. That is your lesson, Zeri replied. She picked up her staff. The forest waited. As she walked away again, the people did not try to stop her. They watched in silence. Not as a curse, but as a guardian passing through. And the ancestors smiled. Because the greatest power is not destruction. It is the choice to heal. Yet one final truth still waited to be spoken. And it would come with the dawn. Dawn broke softly over the land. Golden light touched the trees, the huts, the river, and the long road beyond Kambale. Birds sang as if the world had been given a second breath. The air smelled clean, washed by rain and truth. Zee stood at the edge of the forest. She felt the pull of many paths. Behind her was Kambale, awake and quiet. People moved slowly, speaking in low voices, like those who had survived a storm and were afraid to wake it again. Ahead was the open land, wide and unknown. Zeri closed her eyes. The ancestors came one last time. Not in fire, not in thunder, but in calm. You have done what many cannot, they said. You faced pain and did not become it. Z bowed her head. I only chose not to hate. That choice feeds generations, the ancestors replied. Their voices faded like morning mist. Z turned to leave. But footsteps hurried behind her. Wait. She turned. Her mother stood there, holding a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Her eyes were red, but steady. I know you will not stay, her mother said. But take this. She opened the cloth. Inside was a carved wooden bracelet. Old. Cracked. Familiar. Z's breath caught. My grandmother wore it, her mother continued. She said it belonged to a woman who walked with spirits and healed broken homes. Z took it slowly. Her mother lowered her head. We broke you when we believed fear more than truth. Z looked at her for a long moment. Then she slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. I forgive you, she said gently. But remember, love must stand when lies speak loud. Her mother nodded, tears falling freely. Zoe turned back toward the road. Before she could take another step, a voice called again. This time, it was weak. Curie. Z. She turned. Kato stood there, leaning on a stick. His shoulders were bent. His eyes no longer searched for power. I know you owe me nothing, he said. But hear me once. Z did not speak. I lied because I was small, Kato continued. I wanted to be seen. I wanted your light. He swallowed hard. Now I will spend my life fixing what my fear destroyed. Ziri nodded once. That is your burden. Carry it well. Kato bowed deeply. She turned away. And this time, no one followed. Ziri walked for many days. She crossed dry lands where people fought over water. She crossed river towns where sickness waited quietly. She climbed mountains where grief echoed like wind between stones. Wherever she went, she did not announce herself. But trouble knew her name. She healed with herbs and words. She settled fights before blood fell. She listened more than she spoke. People offered her food, gold, shelter. She accepted only what she needed. Years passed. Stories spread. They spoke of a woman who walked between villages like a shadow at sunset. Some called her Aluace. Some called her the one who returned balance. But she never stayed long enough to be owned by a name. One dry season, famine came to Cambail again. But this time, the people did not look for magic. They worked together. They shared. They remembered. When traders came asking for help, Z sent grain from places she had helped before. Not because Cambail asked, but because she chose mercy over memory. One evening, far from any village, Z sat by a fire under wide stars. Mosi appeared from the darkness, smiling softly. I knew the forest would send you back to me, he said. Zuri laughed quietly. It always does. They sat in silence. The world knows your story now, Mosi said. Your family begged for your help, did they not? Z stared into the fire. Yes, she said. They came when hunger spoke louder than pride. And what did you give them? Mosi asked. Z lifted her eyes to the stars. Enough to live. Not enough to forget. Mosi nodded. That is wisdom. The fire cracked gently. Zoe thought of her 14-year-old self, crying at the river, believing she had been cursed. She smiled sadly. The greatest lie had not been Cato's words. It had been the belief that rejection meant worthlessness. Z stood. My path continues, she said. Mosi smiled. As it should. As Z walked into the night, the ancestors watched with peace. Because the lesson had been written deep into the land. Those who lie may rise quickly, but truth walks longer. Those who reject others in fear will one day beg in need. And those who choose healing over revenge become richer than gold. Ziri had lost her family. But she gained herself. And in doing so, she fed many. With truth. With mercy. And with the strength to never become what tried to destroy her.